Good evening, everyone. This is Sunny with Diamond Network show, Voices of the Alternative World, and it is April 12th, 2016, and this show is reference number 407 pound for anyone that wants to listen before it's on YouTube or who cannot listen on YouTube, but such as me who have a slow internet connection. So I'm very excited about tonight's show. My guest is again Beldon, who will discuss architecture, innovative, visionary architecture. And I am going to start by reading the Law of One, reading or saying the Law of One, and I wish to call in all of our guides. I wish to call in the galactic beings that are overseeing and watching us and inspiring us. We wish to call in the nature spirits that are helping us with the earth renewal and all the things we're doing here on the earth to lift our planet and all of us into a higher vibration. And also I thought it might be good to call in Alan Michael, spirit of the One World Family Commune, and Buckminster Fuller, spirit, and John Lennon and George Harrison, and all of these who have been inspiring to us over the years. So I will read now the Law of One. We are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, and so is everyone else and every other living creature on this planet, I ask that only that which is of the highest good for all concerned happen here and now and throughout all time and space. I give thanks that this be done, and so be it. So before I bring on my guest, Beldon, I want to say that a few shows ago, Dale and I discussed our eco-village in British Columbia, Island, British Columbia, OUR, and I recently have been able to watch a show got from the library, Peak Moment TV presentation about that particular community, and they showed some very beautiful, innovative housing that they had on their property. So this ties in with what Ellen will be talking about, and designs, and circular designs, and just beautiful rhythmic forms. And they used straw bale and corn cob and those kinds of earth-friendly materials to build our houses. So we're definitely thinking outside the box tonight, literally. And someone else is here, I'm glad, and I hope it's either Dale or Elizabeth or whoever is here is fine and wonderful. So without further ado, here is Beldon, someone I've known for probably 45 years.
Good evening, everyone. This is Beldon here, and I've been an explorer of communal living and permaculture, biodynamic gardening, building geodesics, and developing a geometry class which is going to revolutionize the way we teach children mathematics. It'll make it exciting and fun. And the main feature of my little book, Adventures of Polyhedra, is that it balances the left and right brain, the intuitive, creative, and the analytical, mathematical. So any person doing the models that I have templates for in the booklet, and we'll Sonny and I will make it available for people, and I'll also have future articles planned. But I'll say this, that the last architect who was a president of the United States was Thomas Jefferson. And he did amazing things. The Louisiana Purchase to finance Napoleon's war in Europe. And the United States expanded tremendously through the Lewis and Clark expedition in our westward movement. So incidentally, to top it off, Thomas Jefferson said that if you allow the European bankers to come in and take over the purse strings of your nation, you will end up on the streets in the nation that your forefathers conquered. So that's a very interesting piece of work. And with that idea, I would say, isn't it time we had a president who's an architect and will bring forth all the visionary work that's been done by creative architects world around? Now, one thing I wanted to mention before it slips my mind, I had a bike ride with my daughter, and during the bike ride, I was talking about the Bilbao Museum, the Guggenheim Bilbao Museum in Bilbao, Spain. And it was really an amazing bike ride, and the information that I was sharing with her, which I'd like to make public, is that here was an amazing building that was done with titanium. And titanium was part of the space race and the weaponry systems that the United States and the USSR were competing on. And fortunately, a creative being, Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan, got together and they formed, they ended the Cold War. That was great. But still, the militarists are building weapons to destroy all of us on this planet. Now, that's got to be absurd. Anyway, the importance of Frank Gehry's project with his team of designers in Spain was that they built a public building that serves a world-class building, an extraordinary building. It's like a titanium flower that serves the artists of the world. Now, isn't that wonderful? And they bought up all the titanium that the Soviet Union, when they dismantled it, they put it on the market. So the amazing thing was here was all this material that was designed under the Killingry system got turned around into the idea of livingry, supporting life on the planet and making a world-class place to go to, demonstrating fine architecture.
Is
would
titanium...
you like to comment on that?
Yeah, well, is titanium radioactive? Is it the...
It's an alloy. It's a metal alloy. It's like the strongest metal you can make in sheets. Okay. So they got sheets of titanium, and they clad the building with it. You know, it was already made and stockpiled. So they put it to, instead of building rocket ships, they built the Bilbao Museum.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, so it wasn't a part of the actual nuclear. Yeah, it was a metal that they built the ships, the rocket ships with, right? That's what you're saying there.
Yeah, they were no longer. They were dismantling the world around missile system, and of course everyone knows about it now. But the idea was it was the only war that no one could possibly win, because when they fired off the missiles, the target for the missiles had time to send off all their missiles. So what you have is a world reigning with missiles. However, a lot of this was stimulated by space intelligence, so they would develop nuclear weapons that they control. They electronically control all nuclear weapons, and they can do several things with them. One, they can explode them in space, which fissions out the Van Allen belt, satanic belt around the planet. So there's no recall of militarism or any of that stuff. It all gets burnt out of the ore of the planet. And people are operating, they don't really know the function of the brain and the universal mind and how it all goes together in its miracle. But the creation can tune into us electronically and give us messages directly in our headset. And if you're in what we call first cause service, that means you're doing things like providing food, clothing, shelter, the necessities of life for your fellow beings without thought of remuneration, then you have access to this greater intelligence. So, like, people are only using 10% of the mind available. Of the 10%, they're misusing most of that in different ways. And so when you jump up into a level of the 80 to 100% of the mind available, like I do, you can speak about things that are totally amazing. And that's what I'm saying to all of you who are listening, to empower you to get your channel connected directly to the universal intelligence and speak about the great things that we, humanity, the commonwealth of the people, have produced. Sunny?
Yes.
Did I put you to sleep?
No, I'm here. You were just talking quite a stream of consciousness there. I've been here and listening, and that's all wonderful stuff. And I feel that once we get away from thinking that providing these services is a means of money making, and we need to change that system around where it's not based on the financial usury system that's being controlled by the European bankers, as you mentioned, and that was good that you brought that up, that the bankers have been controlling in the cabal the money system, which manipulates all the people. And that necessity will not be, people will be just doing these things because they know it serves a greater whole, and we all need to serve one another and provide all the needs, the necessary needs to sustain ourselves on the planet. You know, there's a system that was on our radio station here, KVMR, talking about it just last evening, and it's not really a barter, but it's called hour. You know, it's based on hours. You know, it's like a bank. You know, people put in a number of hours, and it's being done over the internet electronically, and then they can receive goods and services and then put in hours. They don't have to do it directly to the person like the barter. They don't have to do it directly with the person they're receiving services from. So it's kind of like a universal time bank, and I wanted to just bring that in as part of this discussion. I know there's these systems out there, these alternative currency type systems are out there and being done.
Sonny, this is Candy, and yes, of course, there's Bitcoin that's out there, and ours started in Rochester, New York, over 20 years ago, and it's great that they're able, to get out there and get on the internet now. Yes.
So we have a local chapter here and I couldn't get on the website for some reason. It's because I'm on dial-up, but it's ournevadacounty.org. But anyway, it was started a year ago in our neighborhood right here. Yes, thanks for mentioning that, Candy.
Yes, I worked really hard at trying to get my community interested, but it takes some dedication, full time for a few people, and the courage of a business or two to accept the hours for payment and things, and so it's a great system. On the Candy Shop show, we have a lot of visitors, and they're talking about life on other planets. They're talking about the vision that aliens have to bring to our planet, of the wonderful communal living styles that are on other planets. And I listen to Benjamin Fulford and Cobra and Benjamin's all the time talking about the economic things and the fact that the Asians are wanting to establish a gold-backed world currency. So if everybody on the planet, can work for an hour and get paid for the same amount, I mean, that is going to be wonderful. And to have the freedom to use these architectural things. And they were saying that there's a lot of forces and unseen forces that have been preventing truly successful communal living will be lifting in a year or two from now, and that so many millions will start going into communes to live and garden and experiment with architecture. So I just heard that yesterday. Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to jump in on that. In 1972, we were running a natural food restaurant in Berkeley, and all our compost were supplying the organic gardens all around the community. And during that time, I was doing restaurant service, and I also built a studio in this former fraternity house we took over. We built a loft, and Charles Lobdell, a fine artist, and I shared that. And in that space, I designed a communal complex of gigantic proportions, relative to the way we live now. But I'll describe it basically to you. The idea was to build a complex like an omniscient eye. So in the center was a 60-foot diameter dome. And then radiating out from that was a hexagonal space frame called an octet truss that used efficient materials efficiently, so it could be built quite light. And between the dome and the hexagon held all the different schools of experience. And at that time, we were running a natural food restaurant, and I was channeled the plan. It's actually been out there for 40 years. I channeled the plan for natural food like a restaurant inside the communal building. That it was extraordinary. It came like spirit just sat me down, and I just knocked it out in like an hour or so, and I had a communal kitchen. I also had in it a communal sewing school there, where with a giant table that you can get on the inside to do large sewing projects and so forth. And then there was also a pool with small bathing spas, and that related to the sewing school through a child care area that went. So you flowed through all the spaces. And then when you came into the building, there was an administrative and exhibition area and office. that you came into. So all these functions, I won't describe it anymore. If anyone's further interested, you can contact Sunny, and I'll make sure she has copies of the. It's like a 3-page presentation that was published in a newspaper called the Central Sun. So that was, and the title of it said, "Let's build a flying saucer," and if it doesn't fly, simply live in it.
Yeah.
And so that was a channeled communication, and its time is due to actually build either that size. A 60-foot diameter sphere is really large. So we could build the same complex on a smaller scale. Size is independent of shape. Thank you, Bucky. And we can build a 18-foot diameter or 32-foot diameter sphere. All these things can be designed and built quite simply. I know how to do it. I've done them. The current one that I'm initiating in a project in Daytona Beach or Holly Hill, part of Daytona Beach, Florida, is a half of a 2-frequency 12-foot diameter geodesic, and then I have the other half is yet to be finished. So that's a seminar I'd like to do with people who would actually come and get a hands-on experience in polyhedral geometry and geodesic design. So I just
that sounds great. Yeah, you could advertise it through the internet. Maybe your son could help you with that and get people to come there and learn about it. Do you have other people in Florida that are interested in what you're doing?
Well, I've met some people who came from California, and I homesteaded the property. Incidentally, when I was in California, I was promoting mortgage-free, rent-free architecture. I did a little sign. So I built all this stuff in Gilroy, California. Then when I came to Florida, my son had purchased cash-wise a building by the beach, and then recently we acquired another building with a gigantic lot. Picture a football field filled with palm trees, oak trees, wildlife, and so forth. One day I was walking in the forest there, our forest, and there was an owl sitting on a tree. It must have been about 3 feet high. It was really an extraordinary experience. I said, hey, wow, that was almost worth the price of the property.
Oh, yeah. Nature gives us these wonderful signs.
So we got a whole gardening project to do. I want to have a sewing school, a music school. All of these things would be under the University of the Universe. And when the whole thing is operating, and we get all the remodeling done, you will see a totally fantastic space for music and model making and actual dome building. I'd like to have a world-class dome building seminar there, and all these things that are possible. So, contact Sunny and I, and we will coordinate, do our best to coordinate hands-on experience in the University of the Universe.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful vision, and hope that the right people will be attracted and drawn. I mean, what about the people in your immediate neighborhood and environment that sees, can they see what you're doing with the house and the dome and all those things that they're...
a neighbor across the street, I see them and so forth. He came over to help me lift I put in a temporary, the windows were gone. There was 2 big windows gone. So I boarded them up with a recycled door that I picked up temporarily until the windows came. Now the windows are in, but they need more work to be finished off properly. But we've had a problem with the kind of labor that we that come here, and Daytona Beach is it seems like all the dregs from Miami come here, and it's hard to get people who are really conscientious and work on the level that I work on.
Mhm. Yes, I would imagine so. They're still very much. They're probably still in that old. That it's hard for them to think in terms of not just having a job and getting paid for doing something. You know, because
and the neighborhood is not that rich of a neighborhood. So, and then 100 yards away from my house is a McDonald's and another fast food, Crystal something, and there's nothing to eat around here on the level that I would eat. You know, it's like what they have in McDonald's. Sad diet, standard American diet. You know, and with all that, and so the kind of the way we prepare our meals here are really quite nice, with salads and steamed vegetables and brown rice, and I've been using tempeh, and Joel eats chicken, so he makes chicken, and I don't partake in much of that, but we have fish occasionally. I like it with rice, and I steam potatoes, et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically a near my macrobiotic natural food kitchen. That's at the DeMott House, 123. The other one is 224, so it's 123 224. And I'd like to give my cell phone number out to people who might want to contact me directly, and that's 831-747-7252, and it would be good to hear from people and their response to the things we discuss on this show, and help reinvent the one world family commune in its highest level.
Well, we will all promote this for people who listen to this recording on Facebook, and I know that Elizabeth likes to promote the shows, and so people will listen later, hopefully, that aren't on tonight. There'll be people listening on YouTube, and perhaps they will be in touch with you, because we're putting out a vision here and putting out a possibility of something that can grow in these times when it really seems like a fertile time for these things to grow, because as we talk about on the other shows, the fifth dimensional consciousness is coming in more strongly than ever, and we're just, things are really, the planet is really going through a transformation. Everything's opportune. This new paradigm to come in.
So I had an interesting experience before I came into the communal living. I actually I sent a big brochure of my work, and I was accepted into the school, the Southern Illinois University School of Design with an assistantship for Buckminster Fuller, and so that fell through because they wanted me to do graduate work, but I dropped out of school to work for an engineer and then other architects. So I planned my own education. I wasn't interested in their criteria for architecture. I had a hands-on experience with a structural engineer that I worked for, and he was S.P. Barnes' structural engineer number 1 in the state of California. That was pretty cool. When So that's what I wanted to do, see how buildings went together. Then as I progressed, I was able to really design and build anything. You know, it was just really exciting. We had the tools in our commune to do quite a few things. And I had become quite proficient with. Go ahead. I could build all kinds of furniture with a circular saw, a jigsaw.
The PNA right.
Pardon me?
Yeah, well, yeah, you had hands-on experience. I'm wondering now, is there somebody talking in the background, or is
I heard someone. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Is Dale? Dale, you here?
Okay.
Dale is here.
Somebody's there, but I'd rather have just one person at a time. And if somebody has people in the background talking, perhaps you can mute out, *6 on your phone, so that we won't have the interference. But if anybody is here on the show that wants to join in, be sure to join in.
Hello. No response.
Hello. Well,
so
maybe
that's you, Sonny. All right. I wanted to communicate another interesting thing that I started talking about, the Buckminster Fuller assistantship that I got by mail. And it turns out, I told Allegra Schneider, Bucky Fuller's daughter, this story. But when I was growing up in Los Angeles, we lived off of La Cienega Boulevard. And there were vacant lots, all the commercial, there were no commercial buildings, just a whole line of vacant lots. And that was our playground, the vacant lots. We did all kinds of things. We even made a rough baseball field there and other events. So that was my childhood playground. Well, subsequently, when I came back from Carbondale, Illinois, Buckminster Fuller's Institute was on La Cienega Boulevard with all his artifacts and things like that, right in the territory that I recorded my childhood. Well, I thought that was interesting. And then there were a couple other places where they moved around and relatively close to where I was living. So that was kind of interesting. So I told Allegra that, and I said that if you took a pin and you stuck it in any of those places, you could not differentiate the pin into the map, into the world map. You couldn't differentiate between where the pin landed and where Buckminster Fuller and I had a common space there. So I thought that was kind of fun.
Oh, yeah. That's quite interesting that it was so close to your childhood environment. What is all that noise?
What's that noise?
Yeah, somebody.
What's that noise? What's that coming down? Whoa, there.
I'm sorry. I'm making so much noise, and but it's an interesting synchronicity that the universe was saying you're on the right track, you and Buckminster Fuller.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
well,
he was.
That was an interesting experience. Of course, my family didn't see the value in it, but while I was there, I indexed. I got all these reel-to-reel tapes that no one listened to. 52 hours of Bucky Fuller speaking about everything I know about the universe. And to this day, I can access a lot of that information that I listened to, because I put the tape recorder on a zeroed it out on the counter, and then wherever subjects changed, I created an index so you could put the reel-to-reel back on, go to that go to that number and listen to the Henry Ford story. Let's see, what other things that he had? Well, many different things. He described his geodesic design and the Dymaxion car that was built. I believe they built 3 of them, and the different projects that he was involved in his life, and also the Einsteinian universe, the way we shifted to the Newtonian, everything's at rest, to the Einsteinian, everything's in motion, and he connected that up with Henry Ford, and when Fuller wrote a book called 9 Chains to the Moon, there was a reference to Einstein and E equals mc to the second power, and so Fuller, they said, well, we want you to speak to Fuller and to verify what you're saying is correct. And so he had a conversation with Fuller and Einstein, and then Einstein said that everything that he had presented will eventually come into Mrs. Murphy's kitchen, so to speak. And Einstein responded by saying, well, young man, your ideas are very good, but I can see no practical value with what I've been doing. So, anyhow, Galactica is coming in really strong now, and I was talking about how they can control all the weapons and explode the satanic belt out of the planet. When that happens, that's the time of delivery, and all the souls that are ready to transcend can move on into a new world, into a new solar system that's not ruined like this one. And if you make all the models that in my Polyhedra book, it will prove to you that people live on the inside of the planet and not on the outside. In normal universe, I should say.
Many worlds are that way. Understand.
So on the inside of our planet, we have the Agarthans and the Men in Black and the Murs.
Right.
And I guess the Venetians live inside their planet. I don't think any of them live on the surface of Venus.
Well, that is a whole program in itself, because there's no life in this solar system, and some planet, Maldek, exploded, and Jupiter blew its crust, and the rings. Saturn blew its crust, and the rings formed around it, and so there's no consciousness in all the. Even in Star Trek, they always had people beaming down to the outside of a planet, but I don't recall any episode that showed people living on the inside of a planet.
Well, are they not? Yeah, excuse me.
This will come to be. This will be shown.
They have a different frequency, they aren't in 3D from what we understand. That they're beings on these planets, but they'd be inside, or they're on a different frequency, so that they aren't able to be noticed by, what the normal kind of the 3D vision that we would perpetuate. But we've had some channelings come through about what's been going on Mars, and inside Mars, these colonies and things of that nature.
It's a whole subject, If you want to study planetary archaeology, come to this solar system on the rim of the galaxy, and you can study what happens in a solar catastrophe.
Well, Marduk thing, that's been pretty well known, that planet that exploded and created the asteroid belt, and because they just carried things too far, just like this with their nuclear wars and all that stuff. They blew themselves up apparently, and the space beings, the overseers, they don't want to see that happen here, so they have just has far and wide effects throughout the universe, and the planet blows up. Certainly does, and so that's why they've been partly why they've been keeping our nuclear weapons from going off and intervening in many cases to stop nuclear wars and just keep their weapons from being exploded and things of that nature. Anyway, that's often another tangent.
So why is it that people have this problem on this planet? It's the way they use their language. For example, the term fundamental inadequacy, that the planet cannot support the population that's here, which is a lie. It could support this population very easily on a scale, and this would lead us into the techno-village idea, where people live in a village-wise and transportation is provided communally. You have a secular world where every person needs a car and a parking space, and most people who work have two houses, one that they work in and one that they live in. And see, all that has to change, where everyone has one place of their choosing and lives there, and they don't have to go to work. They say people are unemployed, but that's incorrect. They should say people are being deployed into other services, and this is all computer it can be handled by computer signing up. There's a Jefferson Starship song, "Volunteers of America."
Yeah, they had some great music. Starship, Jefferson Airplane, Starship, and Moody Blues, and we're such the music of our times back in the 60s was the early 70s. A lot of it was very expansive, visionary. I'm wondering, and something else. I was wondering who else is here, and if anyone would like to come in and have, speak of anything that's been talked about, or have any questions for Beldon. Because I've heard a number of bells ring throughout the show, and wondering who's here.
Hello? Anyone here?
Star 6 to unmute if you are here. Want to say something or ask a question?
I had to call in more than one time. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. You had to call in. You got cut off. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that was you most of the time.
I had something I wanted to say about Pink Floyd.
Oh yes. Yeah.
You know the song that has the lyrics, "We don't need no education."
Right. The wall.
So what are they actually saying? According to English principles, we don't need no education. There's two no's in it. We do not need no education.
We need education of the right kind. We need.
So what they're saying is we need a new form of education. That's what they're actually saying in it, which is the hands-on experience in the doing of things that are relevant to what people enjoy doing, and services that can be that would manifest into people's lives, providing clothing and food and all those things. So that's one of the things I want to reestablish on our property is the airbrush school, and art and clothing relative to the clothing school, and maybe even get some artists who do weaving. I can do inkle weaving. I do it every so often. I finished the cycle 2 years ago. I haven't woven since, so I'm ready for a new weaving cycle. And I wanted to mention this about weaving, like on this loom, an inkle loom. But when I was in the consciousness that as I was weaving, I was like running a tape, and it had the colors and the patterns I was putting into it was the theme of it, and then the weaving was actually the song that I was recording, and I loved doing it. And when I was running all over Arizona and Flagstaff and Phoenix, not too much in Phoenix, and Sedona was a real center. I went there for an hour, and I ended up spending 2 weeks there. Anyway.
Yeah. I remember you doing that.
So in Arizona, let me just finish this one point. In Arizona, I was weaving authentic Navajo fire belts. And I couldn't weave them fast enough. As soon as one was finished, people would see it and they'd want it, and I'd cut it off the loom and give it to them, and they'd share like $15, $20 with me. And that gave me plenty of gasoline and so forth. I had a little International Scout Jeep with a Chevy engine in it. It was like a hot rod. I was stopped twice by the police, but they didn't ticket me. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that about weaving, you know.
Yeah.
That's any creative work, you're actually recording in the morphic resonance of the planet. So when we say in our commune, the University of the Universe is setting up the world into schools of experience. And those schools provide the food, clothing, the shelter, care, transportation, and recreation for all the people on the planet. So that's what we're moving toward. And you know, right now, I was in my conversation with Dale, I presented the idea that we don't need to build anything new on this planet, basically, that we could go on the worldwide work stoppage and the 30-30 plan, where people travel around the world for 60 days in the 12 precincts of the planet. And for 30 days they have recreation, and for 30 days they operate the services. And that's the way we get rid of money.
And so, because everyone has a chance to just, say, recreate and just relax and rejuvenate and experience other parts of the planet, and it's just part of the lifestyle, and it's not something that you have to save up for and spend, lots of work your butts off for a year to do something like that. But it's part of life, just part of life, and giving and receiving.
It's like creation says, well, people, you've worked hard for all these generations, multi-generations. Isn't it time you enjoyed what you produced? Anyway, there was one more thing slipped my mind. Well, go ahead. It'll come back.
Yeah, well, I was reflecting on the idea that clothing can be as we knew back in the 60s, and all the colorful clothing that was worn then and all that. It's uplifting to wear all those colors, and still and that's coming back, and people are liking that kind of clothing again now, and we can just be really creative with our clothing as well as our buildings. And I know that's one of the people you mentioned to me when we talked, these two architects, and on the first one, I guess it was Eugene Tsui. He actually designed clothing as well.
TSUI.
Yeah.
I want to do an exhibition and bring in different architects, and what it would be is an exhibition and where people could come and see photographs and films and so forth, and it would be called Heroes of Modern Architecture. I also have a sign that says School of Modern Architecture that's in California still, and also the Dome Builders School of Experience. These are facets that can be applied, and the excitement that would be generated by people doing these things. I've gotten some fans over. I go to Panera's. I have a coffee once a week there, and a bagel and cream cheese, and I make these models, and they keep getting more and more exotic. And there's one gal there. She's become a real fan. You know, she smiles at the work and so forth, and so that's fun to do. And I'd like to get the 6th grade class going and teach the important. How does this relate to architecture? Well, if you start in the 6th grade and you teach children mathematics of polyhedra, and they actually learn how to make the models and construct them and decorate them and light them or whatever they creatively want to do with them, which there's a lot of possibilities. You can even make wooden ones and put a hole in it and hang it for a birdhouse. So anyhow, the polyhedra class will put together a whole generation of young designers, architects, scientists, mathematics people. It's a cornerstone of getting people mathematically tuned in to the possibilities of our planet. And that's what Buckminster Fuller was about in his synergetics mathematics, was to break through the fundamental inadequacy on the planet to demonstrate that the planet is abundantly rich in all things. And that's part of Alan's teachings in the Everlasting Gospel, that the planet is abundantly rich in all things. So why do we have these artificial scarcities?
Yes. Well, it's in using this properly and giving back to the planet. I know our planet is pretty well capable of producing so much food, in plants for healing and all kinds of things. We just have to give our planet the due respect and use these things properly, and not just over harvest and not put poisonous chemicals on them and change the composition of our soil and kill our soils and all those things. Yeah. So yes, our Mother Earth is definitely capable of putting forth a great abundance for nourishment of all kinds. Agree with that.
Did I tell you about the teachings in avocado tree? Didn't volunteer. I planted the seed. What I've gotten from it, at the entrance of the house on Daytona Avenue, the 224 one, there was like a planter box with a wooden. It was masonry with a wooden frame, like a rectangle. And when we moved there, we swept all the leaves off of the roof and all kinds of organic material into that container, and then I kind of filtered out the junk from it. And so it's like a mulch, and I put some avocado seeds in there, and I have one, like a double trunk one coming out of the seed, and it's the leaves are large and it's low right now. It's about 10 inches high, and it has these broad leaves on it, and it's telling me that it's going to really be happy there. So I have all this 2x2 wood that I'm going to build little boxes of and place them around the property with an avocado tree in them. And
great.
so I'll have a little avocado orchard.
That's great.
See how they do. So, a lot of it's experimental, but there's enough information on permaculture to do fantastic gardens.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call them biodynamic gardens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, avocados are so nutritious. And it's such a perfect food in so many ways.
Oh, yeah. The way they ripen and the seeds are beautiful. They're really gorgeous seeds. So how are we doing at time, Sonny?
Well, we started around 6:35, so we're getting close to the time we should close. And that was really wonderful presentation. And I'm going to ask again if there's anyone out there that wants to add anything before we close.
Yeah, if you have something to say or whatever you want to, don't have to answer a question, but you can share an experience. But if you're going to do it now and get it on the program.
Star 6 to unmute. And Beldon will be back next month. Your regular guest here once a month.
Yay! Well, thank you. I really enjoyed doing this. It's a great group out there, and I want to see you all in Daytona Beach, and we'll charter a boat. And I haven't been on a boat ride on this trip. The last boat ride I did was on Joe's friend's boat in Miami when he lived on Miami Beach. And there's all these boats around here and water on both sides.
Well, that sounds great what you described to me yesterday or the day before whenever we talked with the water. Yeah. Hello? Whoever's talking, it's a lot of breaking up going on. But if someone really wants
we're not getting a clear sound channel.
No.
Well,
yeah. I guess we ought to say good night for now, and thank you, whoever's here on the call. Really glad you can make it, and we'll be back next Tuesday, and Beldon will be back in a month, and there's always surprises coming up and new inspirations unfolding for us here in all the Diamond Network shows from Monday through Thursday, so be sure to tune in when you can. Same number, basically same access code. So thank you all and let us move forward into this new world that's unfolding before us and that we are a part of.
Wonderful.
Many blessings.
Would say
wonderful show. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for
welcome. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, glad you.
We used to say, "Love is service done."
And your show, and Candy's show tomorrow will be on. It's an hour later, starting an hour later than this one started. So, yes, glad you're here, Candy. And we hope that Bill is okay because he said he was going to be here, but he's not. But we'll tune in. We'll call him and find out how he's doing.
Yeah, and all of you can look forward to our new movies that we're going to make, non-dualistic movies of good guys and bad guys, but just how to do it, how to really do it. Let's really do it. Let's build a new world for everyone and remodel the old.
Yeah, get out of duality.
Absolutely. And if you come on my show tomorrow night, do say hello, Vern. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And good night and blessings to all.
Good night, Sunshine Love. Thanks for the sharing.
Good night.
It was a good
Good
program.
night, Beldon. Good night. Thank you.
Are you looking for healing or a change in your life to help you enjoy it more fully? You might benefit from a galactic energy reading and clearing from Chris Jacobs. Chris will work with you on a soul level to clear unseen negative influences, implants, programs, contracts, and energetic blocks. Chris Jacobs is a gifted energy healer. Contact him today at ChristopherStephenJacobs@gmail.com.